History is the study of the human past. We start with big questions. So we'll ask students, why do monuments matter? What is the legacy of the American Revolution? Why are we still fighting about the meanings of freedom and equality today? History provides us the tools and the perspective that we need to be able to answer those questions. At Misericordia, we provide students with real-world experience. The history program combines a track in professional grounding as well as a solid liberal arts education in order to provide multiple pathways for the future. Each faculty member works with students one-on-one to mentor research, to help them navigate internships and network in the professional world, and to help students really think about how they can apply what they have learned to their future lives as active citizens in the United States or in their local communities. Every generation in American history has seen a lot of big changes, and this generation is no different. And we're giving our students the opportunity to reflect upon those changes, whether we're talking about social tensions or political strife or the long-term and short-term effects of global pandemics. Our students in the public history program this year are working to collect and preserve the stories of the pandemic so that future generations can better understand 2020.
Public history focuses on the skills that you acquire from history, but they're used in a setting that's outside of academia, usually. So the most common method is normally through museums, historical sites, historical societies. You work with the public more often than how you would if you were in an academic setting. I am currently involved in an internship right now with the Anthracite Heritage Museum in Scranton. And so it has changed a little bit because of, the condition that the world is in right now with COVID-19 and everything. But I'm still able to learn a lot of the things that I would usually in the internship. I'm currently working on a project that is, it's involved with the Lackawanna County Historical Society. So in April and May, they sent out a questionnaire to Lackawanna County residents concerning how COVID-19 has affected them. And right now, I believe there is over 500 entries to the collection. And so my job right now is to go through all of the stories and pick out key words that appear often from the responses. And this is important to know because, in 100 years when this is clearly going to be in history books, these key words will, let the people studying history 100 years from now know exactly how we felt, A lot of the keywords that come up: anxiety, fear, virtual, work from home, family and friends come up often, they miss their family and friends. Or one surprising keyword that comes up often is joy and gratefulness, because people are able to spend more time with their families at home. Working from home, they're able to spend more time with their kids, or they get to spend time with their cats or dogs more often. So the work that I'm doing right now, I find super interesting because you're reading the stories of people's lives. And in 100 years, this is going to be really important to know, just like how it would have been important to know 100 years ago.
You're going to hear a lot of people say close faculty-student relationships, the small class sizes, the classic liberal arts education. That's kind of standard fare. One of the things that I think Misericordia does really well is we provide a research-level experience, the kind of experience that you might expect from Penn State or a big research school in a small classroom setting.
I helped her with some of the research she was doing with her book, and while doing that research, I realized this was another factor that helped me decide to change my major. I decided that I didn't specifically want to be teaching history in a classroom. I wanted to be like part of making it in a way. So I wanted to be doing the research. I wanted to be handling the artifacts. I wanted to be, fully developed into it. The research assistantship with Dr. Black, it allowed me to, realize that there was more to history than just teaching it, because a lot of the things that I heard going into college as a history major was that the only two things that you can do with a major are be a teacher or be a lawyer. And so after doing the research with Dr. Black, I realized how much I loved, working with primary sources and uncovering this stuff. When you're doing that kind of research, you feel like you are the one, discovering this. And while I didn't particularly discover it, it felt like I was. And so doing that research allowed me to realize, like I said, that I didn't want to just teach history. I wanted to be fully involved in it. I wanted to be doing the research. I wanted to be uncovering these documents, uncovering the primary sources. And so after that summer, that was when I really decided that I wanted to change my major. When I sat in the class, it was Dr. Austin's class. I don't specifically remember exactly which course it was, but I believe it was a US history class. And I was really scared to sit in this class with other, college students as a high school student. And so I walked into class and, obviously everybody is, looking at you and whatnot. They're like, who is this? She's not in this class. And so I find a seat, and normally I would have found a seat in the back, away from everybody, but somebody invited me to sit next to them. And so I was like, okay, yeah, great. And I sat next to them, and then Dr. Austin eventually came in and he, greeted the class, and then he introduced me as, a prospective student for Misericordia. And all of the students in the class, they said hi, they, greeted me they gave me a great welcome. And the class itself, it seemed, the content of course was interesting. I love history, so that wasn't a problem. But the way that the professor interacted with the students and the level of engagement, that was definitely, it was definitely something that I was looking for in a college experience. And at the end of class, some of the students offered more information, and they said, if I ever wanted to know more or just needed to talk to somebody, some of them, offered their emails or phone numbers. And then at the end of class, Dr. Austin also, asked me about how I felt. And yeah, so overall, that one trip probably determined for me that this is where I wanted to be for the next 4 years, because it was just such like a welcoming feeling, and I don't think that I would have gotten that at another school.
I looked at like hundreds and hundreds of colleges across the US. I went to campus, I took the tour, I met some lovely professors, and I was like, I could live here. Like, this is where I want to be. In comparison, when I traveled to the other colleges, I went across the state and traveled through all the schools. And I met with several professors from several different campuses. And I just felt more connected to the ones at Misericordia. They were more open, they were more willing to talk to me with the real details. And it wasn't like they were talking to a group of people. It felt like they were actually talking to me. And that's what connected me to Misericordia right away.
We can talk a lot about what close interaction means. And a lot of people, I don't think, really understand that it's not just teaching the students. It's not just explaining what happened in history, but it's showing them how to apply those things in their future professional lives. And it's really watching them mature into scholars and well-adjusted, mostly well-adjusted adults who are gonna go on to leave really purposeful lives of consequence. And so I think that's what Misericordia does.
From the time I started at Misericordia, I was in several internships. I was with the VA Veterans Health Association social media department for over a year, and I still am currently with them, even though the internship considered ended. They decided to keep me around. It was actually so fascinating to see the history behind everything, and it was archival work. And people don't look at social media, like when you go on social media and you're like, oh, I posted this last year in your memories, you don't think that as history, that's just you posting. But for me, looking at a big company's organizational, several social media pages like their Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, I got to see the history, and I was actually a part of making history, because every time they posted something and I had my hand in it, that was me making history. I was the only intern out of the 30 or so interns that they had that they brought me out to DC. I actually stayed there for a week at a hotel. It was real fun. And I got to go into their office building in DC and give my presentation off the research that I did, and I presented to the group of like 50 people, and they actually made the decision after reviewing my research to change the way they were posting on social media.
That's one of the things that I love most about this school, because you really have the opportunity to not only get to know, your students, your fellow peers, but you get to work one-on-one with your professors, and that definitely has made a difference in my life, for sure.
That's the thing I love about Misericordia, because absolutely 110% you can go and see your professor for help in your classes, but then you can also go see so many other professors, and they are all so willing to help you. And I had no idea, and I'm a senior now, and I'm like, man, you're telling me that I could have asked any person in any of the things at any time, and they're so also open. It wasn't just things that I needed to get my job done. It was just basic information to help me grow and learn and develop, so I can take those skills that I learned from each of these random people that I met that I wouldn't have met without asking or randomly walking in. I could take that into my future job opportunities and continue to grow and share my knowledge from these people.
I think that a majority of the faculty are willing to go that extra step because we do genuinely care. And because we work so closely with the students, we really get to know them over the course of 4 years. And they become, members of a community in the department, and we want them to succeed.
It was never even possible. I didn't even think I would ever have a chance to work with a big organization such as the VA, like in a small town in Pennsylvania, like going to DC for a week. I would have never thought. It was an accident. Like, it was one email from my advisor, who got an email from another advisor, I'm sure, who got another email from 10 other advisors going, hey, we're looking for people. And I just said, okay, sure. And when I said, absolutely, I'll do this, I didn't realize it was going to change my life, and I owe Misericordia for that. I would have never had that experience if it was not for the people here on Misericordia.
When someone asks me, why should I study history? I think that there's so much going on in our world right now that students and adults alike, we're all having a hard time processing it. Right? We've seen political rallies, we've seen people protesting in the streets, we've seen monuments get torn down, and it can be hard sometimes to really understand why that's happening or what's significant about it. And I think that's what history tells us. That's what the humanities can offer. It helps us answer those questions and learn how to deal with those things as adults. And I think if we can listen to each other more in our communities, if I as a faculty member can teach my students how to be better citizens and better members of their community by listening to their communities and their peers, then I've done something good. They're going to go out and they're going to try to make things better, and that's the best I can hope for my students.